This is Dynasty Warriors Origins. We're here on Xbox Series X. Be sure to like the video. Subscribing is great as well. So this is the latest entry in the very long-running Dynasty Warriors franchise. It's basically a game where you hack and slash hundreds, if not thousands, of troops on majestic battlefields across whatever particular scenario in this region that they've tried to set up for this particular game. I know that it's kind of generalizing it, but that is basically what Dynasty Warriors is. There's historical figures, there's some kind of conflict going on, and there's been numerous spin-offs doing all kinds of different things in different time periods. And this is really the modern, next-gen revitalization of Dynasty Warriors. I say that because the visuals, the aesthetic, everything has been upgraded for the modern era, and it really is a big visual bump up, is mostly what I'm saying here. It really is quite a fidelity increase over what we've seen with previous entries in the series, and there's a lot of other improvements and overhauls for this particular offering that will allow you to enjoy that next step of Dynasty Warriors. If you're kind of familiar with the series, you're very likely going to know some of the key beats of what this is like and what it offers. The big change up here really seems to be kind of the use of this magical type of stuff, which they straight up tell you is incense. But yeah, that's kind of the idea, is that's the new big switch up, is now the enemy is using this ability, and it's like, oh, and you're special as this sort of, I don't know, prettier protagonist that is attempting to save the realm and work with others to do so, and you're the only one that can see through using your Assassin's Creed Eagle to know where everything is, which is kind of funny because you're the one that's meant to bring peace to the realm, or whatever. That's the scenario we're dealing with here. So yeah, like I said, this is very much traditional Dynasty Warriors. It's got some really weird kind of difficulty, odd scaling stuff that feels really strange in terms of, like, I guess just how all of a sudden you're kind of like, you're playing, and then you're just like kind of grinding levels a little bit to do stuff, and it actually gets like a little annoying having to do that. Personally, I didn't really like when that all of a sudden just like came to like a screeching halt. Like, I was like, oh, okay, this is like a sweet upgrade. Like, actually, again, I do quite enjoy the series. But yeah, that was weird. Like, I guess maybe a power level scaling kind of thing or something. It got really brutal out of nowhere, and I was like, what is this? So yeah, basically, even at this point, I'm kind of just doing side activities and trying to get a little stronger. And very bizarre. So the game, usually you're moving through these pretty set environments. You can see in the bottom right there, that's kind of the open, quote-unquote, world. They're more like hub worlds, kind of like Fable, that you go into. These fantastical battles. These side things I'm doing are basically just, I guess you would say, build-up things that kind of allow me to improve myself a little bit, get skill points and stuff, masteries with different weapon disciplines, and it's basically just extra grind stuff that you would get in like a JRPG, right? Where you're just kind of doing meaningless side activities. That's essentially what I'm doing here. Which is interesting, but, you know, just kind of giving you context. And some of these guys are just so meaty, these key figures. But basically, around the map, you're fighting for momentum and morale. And it'll be like big guys like this, and you'll focus on killing them, and then your troops will kind of be able to advance or not advance based on that, and then all kinds of cheap stuff happens where you die randomly. And, oh, yeah, it's a whole thing. Fatality, I win. So the game is fitted with a couple different performance options, which are actually kind of impressive. We'll show that as soon as we get to the open world. Yeah, we're just kind of going through this, and I got skill points, so I think I have enough to bump up my health. Nope, never mind. Thought I did. I was wrong. So yeah, we've got some different visual setting options. So what I was mostly playing on, and actually pretty fine with, is the graphics setup to prioritize graphics, but we're going to switch it to prioritize performance. And then you can choose 30, 60, or 120 FPS. There's HDR support, there's Dolby Atmos, there's spatial sound, and DTS:X support. So no matter how you're kind of going about this, it is like a dynamic 4K, so it's just really how much the resolution threshold is changed in regards to kind of the visual aesthetic. So it's sort of like when it's quality mode, it's more attempting to be a full 4K, whereas if you are doing, well, basically the quality mode, well, performance has a more aggressive resolution scaling threshold compared to the quality mode. There you go. That's the difference. So personally, I didn't really have much of an issue playing with targeting the 120 hertz. Playing in quality mode, it was relatively fine. Am I getting a full 120 FPS when doing that? No. Even in performance mode, I wouldn't say you're mostly getting 120 FPS. It's a nice form of future-proofing because, you know, obviously there's going to be the resolution scaling, and then on top of that, there's going to be, you know, resolution scaling plus the potential for the performance. So if you do want something that is hitting, you know, like upper bounds, like 100 FPS or so, towards, again, some scenarios, it very well might be 120 FPS when you're sitting there in a, you know, cinematic or something or whatever. Or maybe like a combat scenario where there's not too many enemies on the screen. But this is a game where it does vary quite a bit. I did have a couple crashes. It wasn't too bad, honestly, but there was a couple. And for the most part, it does run actually really well no matter which of the modes you kind of go for. Like, you could definitely tell that there's a lot lower bounds in terms of, like, the fidelity and, like, the clarity of the performance mode. But as you can tell, it looks fine. Obviously, with YouTube not supporting 120 FPS, it's harder to give you the full kind of showcase, as to say. But the idea here is that you're getting an idea of how the visuals look. No matter how you go about it, this open world here has performance issues on both the settings. The game itself also, if you are playing with the prioritized graphics at 120 and you're doing that at the beginning of the game, it's going to have like a little bit of lag in the first opening areas, I know, it's like performance issues, but when you start getting to the regular world and you're exploring, or while doing the different missions and stuff like that, it does actually play fairly fine. I wasn't having really issues with that personally. Again, they give you options, so you really can choose how you want to play it. I'm just kind of saying I think you can get away with playing the quality mode, targeting 120 FPS, and having a relatively, you know, smooth and good-looking game without having, you know, issues and stuff like that. And it's kind of neat because, to me, Dynasty Warriors is massive. 1 million units, like, you know, it's just 1 million soldiers. Just massive selections of enemy troops. That's what this franchise is about. Which was kind of the worry when they went to the newer visual aesthetic. When they first teased this game, I was like, wow, Dynasty Warriors got to glow up. And I think that's still true here. Like, it's definitely looking a lot better. Like, the environments look current gen, as far as this type of game does, right? The enemies look current gen. I am quite... Oh, I need one more little side mission so I can get 30 to get myself a little tougher. Like, this is definitely... When I think of what Dynasty Warriors should be in the modern era, this is kind of really what it is. Because I sort of assumed they were always going to kind of just keep the aesthetic going on forever. And, you know, the older versions of this game never necessarily ran super well. If that makes sense, like there was always like performance stuff, and you know it was never necessarily perfect, but I would say they've actually got like a pretty good stable overhaul while being familiar, while advancing their technology of a game, and I'm quite impressed from that perspective. Again, a little annoyed gameplay-wise by the momentum system, but that's always kind of been a thing in Dynasty Warriors. It's just this one, there's something really angering about it, where I was just kind of like, I don't understand quite what they're going for with this version of it. So I would say maybe playing at like a easier level of difficulty setting might be ideal for this game, because it did really frustrate me to the point where I was just like, okay, I'm calling it a day on this. And that's weird, because like you progress, and then it's sort of like, okay, you just gotta like grind weirdly out of nowhere, and I don't know, that to me that felt weird, because I don't remember really having to do that in the other Dynasty Warriors. Or maybe I just didn't take them as seriously, but I just remember at least, you know, earlier on, and maybe when you get to some of the later stuff, I guess, I just don't remember it ever being quite like that. And I've played quite a few of these variations throughout the years, and I've also played a number of the spin-offs over the years, too. And I just, yeah, it's kind of a bit odd, honestly. But I'm saying this is a great direction for Dynasty Warriors. I just hope they get kind of the difficulty or the level scaling stuff a little more set up in a way that's makes a little bit more sense than just like progressing, story, and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, what am I doing? I can't progress past this area, even though I'm killing everyone on the map, killing all the big bad guys, and I'm just getting like, you know, sort of soaked and losing all of my health and not having any more like wonton neat things to heal myself. It's you know, it gets a little annoying, right? But I would say presentation wise, gameplay wise, they've actually got something pretty good going on here. I'm definitely very pleased by the setup of this game. I think you can have a lot of fun with it. And as I said, no matter what settings you really go for, this open world area is just not going to run well, and that's just how it is, honestly. And there's like level kind of gating stuff. Like you can progress and attack even if you're not the right level, but you're going to get just thrashed. Yeah.
I'm counting on you.
Yeah, let's go out. Let's do it, guys. But no, they've got it set up here. It is a story-driven game, so there is that focus where you are working through the narrative. A new version of Three Kingdoms from the perspective of an original protagonist. Yeah. So basically, it's a vast mainland of China with different heroes of, like I said, the lore of history coming together and battling and all that is quite neat, honestly. And you just fight huge onslaughts of enemies, and I would say it really does nail the foundations of Dynasty Warriors, at least from the various entries I've played over the years, and it does do some fun stuff with it. Like, honestly, it's a pretty enjoyable experience for the most part, just outside of those issues I was having, which, again, it's so strange, but this battle in particular just really giving me some frustrations, I gotta tell you. But I think you can still, if you're familiar with the series, you'll probably be happy with what this is. If you're new to the series, if you do go with a different, easier kind of maybe difficulty setting, I think this will be very approachable and getting into the franchise kind of thing. I don't believe you'll necessarily go back and play other entries, but I think you can kind of get fresh in here and you'll be like, oh, this is really neat, and then when they do additional Dynasty Warrior games, which I'm sure they will continue to do as they have for many, many years, you'll be more easily into those, perhaps, because I do think this style of combat is fun. Like, this part of the game, to me, is the most enjoyable, where you are just mulching through massive waves of foes and battling and seeing all the chaos on the battlefield going on and trying to influence that in your own way. That, to me, is really, really quite intriguing. Like, there's a lot to enjoy about that style of what this is. So, yeah, I think this part of Dynasty Warriors is really neat. And, you know, they do all the chatting, and they're very overly honorable, and It's a big thing with the setup like this. It's just kind of, it's funny too, because it's basically like, all of them are kind of the same, right? They do different stuff, but it's the characters you know, just kind of in slightly different battle dynamics. And there's always, you know, some kind of dynamic force and surprise going on, and you're kind of thrown into the middle of it. But yeah, it's large-scale, epic battles, crazy conflict. It really, actually, kind of makes me want to see, because I was doing it not too long ago, 99 Nights. I'd love to see that return. But I like what they got set up here. Like, there is some nice, like, advancements for this series. There's also some stuff that's, you know, frustrating to a degree as well. And I think they've got, like, a pretty good balance for it. I'm mostly just kind of happy that this is back, and sort of was having some fun with it until I got a little annoyed by it. But I think a lot of other people probably won't have the same frustration level I had with it. But, you know, it depends on how much of a veteran of things you are on this and how used to it you are. And, yeah, you got to build up your characters, and you know, you kind of get all these abilities going, and you become more powerful. And, yeah, there's a lot of neat stuff to this one, and, you know, a little bit more, I guess it's a little less mindless too, in terms of like blocking and parrying and hitting the right moves at the right time in order to like fight against the tougher guys, and becoming that stronger force out here on the battlefield, and being a toughness that will like change the tide of war you by yourself alone. Which is kind of funny, because it's like, there's so many characters out there, it's like, why doesn't anybody help me? Why am I doing everything here? Why have I killed 1,100 guys and no one can kill the final guy left on the battlefield? It's like, you know, what's going on? Why is that the case? And who's frustrated by that? Me? Nah, not at all. These guys with their silly fans of chaos. But I think, as you can tell, though, visually, like, it is really kind of clear, and it's still keeping up performance to a point where I'm like, this is actually pretty performant, and I quite enjoy that they were able to achieve that for this. Because I wasn't really expecting like a technically kind of impressive offering, so I'm really quite impressed by the fact that it is. It's just like, oh, what a pleasant surprise that they were able to kind of achieve that with this game. What is he doing? He's just jumping in the air and whirling around. But yeah, the momentum system and stuff like that definitely can be a little frustrating and random, especially when you think you're perceiving that you're doing the right thing, and then you're just like, well, what's going on here? You know, that can be annoying. Just wondering if people are gonna know that or what. And why is this guy giving me so much trouble? I'm out here flailing away. It's like, yeah, you basically are the only one that can like do anything in this conflict. It ever always feels like. It's like, what are the other guys doing? They're all just cannon fodder in this battle. But it makes you feel like you're in these massive, epic conflicts, and that everyone else around you is just like essentially useless. they're just all out there, just cannon foddering away while waiting for you to be the change that turns the tide of the conflict. But I don't know, if you crank it down and you just kind of go in and you just like smash through huge swarms of enemies, it really can be quite entertaining. I also love the flashiness that they've introduced with like the particle effects like that in this game for conflict. I think even that's kind of nice. It's a lot of really good quality of life improvements that they've added for this entry, and it's kind of like a nice bold next step for Dynasty Warriors. And as I said, I've always kind of enjoyed taking a look at the series. Every time there's a new one out, I'm like, oh yeah, let's just go mulch through a bunch of units and have fun and talk about it. And you know, that's what I always think of when I play these. And it's just weird because I don't really usually think of like level gaining stuff, and then this one hitting it so soon, I was just like, this is weird. It really bothered me, genuinely. I was just sitting there being dumbfounded. I was like, what? Usually I just mow through these guys, no questions asked, and it's like, I don't know. I think there's lots of discussion and chatter, because, you know, there's a lot of story stuff going on. And that one guy, he's got a very, very small head.